What is an inverted rocket?
Well, I don't know about that. There's the old scene from the original Top Gun when the plane was inverted.
And now
Oh,
you have to say original Top Gun. Have you guys seen the non-original?
Sure have.
Was it good?
I was very satisfied with it.
Nice.
yeah, I've heard it was very good.
Hmm.
Cool. I'm excited.
So it's like, here's the thing. Here's what they do is they know it's like everybody loves Tom Cruise and fighter jets are the coolest thing in the world. And that's what they give you for 2 hours. Like, that's it. It's
Tom
amazing.
Cruise in a fighter jet.
Yep.
Why did it take them 40 years to make this remake or whatever?
That's the question.
Man, oh man. When was the original? It was like mid 90s, right?
86.
Literally 40 years.
Yeah,
well,
30.
just 36. That's
And
And
crazy.
Tom Cruise looks exactly the same.
He
Same.
does look exactly
Just
the same.
the same.
How old is he? What?
We'll say what you will about Scientology. It works.
My gosh. The guy is ageless.
I would even say they have an ethos.
Yeah, right. At least it's an ethos.
Man, like 4 or 5 years ago, he did that new Mission Impossible movie as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
I
there
remember
are-
him sprinting on a roof. And I'm
there
like,
are
that dude is like
multiple
50
scenes.
something.
Yeah, where he is full on sprinting.
Yeah.
Like the knife hand sprint, like
Mm-hmm.
boom, boom, getting it.
The cruise sprint.
The cruise sprint.
Knife hands. That's very true. That does make you look like so much more intense when you run.
He's
It's the aerodynamics.
and his head just stays like in the exact same spot.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty impressive. And he does his own stunts too.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
I think he broke his ribs in that last one.
Wow.
At-
Holy
at-
smokes.
Like 50, however
Man,
old he
you don't
was.
recover as quickly in your 50s. I've heard. Anyway.
No, I think he's 60 something. I think he's 61. I looked it up the other night. We were talking about it.
What a legend. All right,
Yeah.
big fan of that.
Yeah. And the movie, I mean, do you guys want to, I don't want to ruin the plot for you. It's like unrealistic in just the best way. Like they're like, nope. Yeah, sure. Most of the time when people get shot down or are in trouble, like they don't steal foreign countries' fighter jets and fly them and stuff like that. But like, hey, here's our principles. Tom Cruise and fighter jets. So let's have him in fighter jets more.
I like that.
Which is
That's
great.
good.
It works. Like it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They hijacked a fighter jet at one point.
Yeah. And like, yeah, who's to say, just for old times, like someone couldn't steal an old 1980s F-14 Tomcat, which was originally flown in Top Gun, and
No way.
shoot down multiple modern fighter jets. Who's to say that can't happen? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
You're like, yep.
I had
Do
that
it.
dream last night that I did that. Yes.
Who was I talking to? Somebody was telling me that they thought the F-14 was too heavy. That what came after? This is a vein of
Was that
things I
also a
don't.
dream? Because I usually don't have those conversations. Like, man, the F-14.
I think it's my dad. He was
kinda
reading. He was reading a book about this guy who changed a lot of warfare tactics, and one of his big things was like maneuverability was the most important thing in dogfighting. And he thought the F-14 was like it was all super equipped, but it was like just not very maneuverable. Is that true? What came after, Mike? Because your dad flew the F-14.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he would say it's the best combination of speed, power, and maneuverability.
Mhm.
That there's just.
So he thinks
of
it's the
course,
best.
He's a little biased, obviously, but
No,
yeah,
that gets a
there's-
fist pump, dude. That's awesome.
yeah. So I know that the payoff is speed and then your like turn angles. So the larger the aircraft, the less it can make those absolutely sharp turns. And yeah, I mean the F-14 was ginormous. It was a beast. And they have the F-18 came afterwards. They have the F-15, the F-16, but now they're up to like the F-35. They got the F-22. Yeah, but I don't know a lot of we'd have to get Father DeGaulle on to talk about the details of the engines.
Fuselages and whatnot.
Yeah. So have y'all ever experienced a flyover, a fighter jet flyover?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I go to the air show. I've gone to the air show a few times since I've been living in the city. With the Blue Angels
in Chicago. That's super cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
That was my first weekend at Mundelein. The air show was in Chicago.
Really?
It's pretty dope.
Did I go with you? Is that when we took that bus tour?
Yeah, actually. I don't know. I just remember at some point we had, what is it, Navy Pier that's downtown by the water. And we were there eating lunch. So I don't know if like the whole group was there or if we had some like, time to split off. But I think the Blue Angels were practicing.
Wow.
And I think it was 2 Blue Angels flew over us because I remember I could see, like I could read the guy's helmet. He was so low.
What?
It was awesome. Yeah.
Whoa.
I don't know if I could read it. That's probably an exaggeration. I could see his helmet is a better way to put it.
Wow. That is really low. That's pretty amazing. Yeah, before I ran, it was the Peachtree Road Race, which is like a 10K down in Atlanta. They had a fighter jet that flew over, and I wasn't expecting it. And because of the speed of it, like the plane essentially meets you at the same time that the noise does, if they're low enough, because he wasn't going the speed of sound. He wasn't going Mach speed or something like that. He'd blow all of our heads off with the percussion of it. But I remember being surprised by it, and then I could feel it shaking my ribs. Like the sound of the engine and the force of it, it vibrated my body.
Whoa.
Like, oh my goodness. And he was pretty low, but yeah, it just made me want to scream America.
Did you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's keeping you from doing that?
No, nobody could hear me. I couldn't even hear myself.
Wow.
Over the jet engine.
Why are fighter jets so cool? That's a deep question for this morning.
I feel like it's one of those self-evident questions, though. You just
know.
Yeah. Once you've seen it.
Well, I am willing to go here. I wasn't planning on it. Here's just a total read into trying to make a theological reflection based off of Top Gun 2. Like, we can go there if you guys want to throw it out this morning. Okay. So one of my favorite parts of it, this isn't a big spoiler, but one of my favorite parts of it is that 35 years later, like Maverick and Iceman are like besties, like best friends, best buds. Just like at the end of the last one, all true. Like when they hug it out and like they're buds now and they can be each other's wingmen, came true.
Nice.
So, kind of the whole narrative of Maverick is that he stayed Maverick. Like he's just a loner. Sorry, I'm clearing my throat. I'll stop that. Better. But he stayed Maverick. So like he's constantly like just making, like guys that are better ranked than him mad. Like he's going to do it his way. So I don't always like love that narrative, but the narrative of Iceman is very continuous with Iceman in the movie of like very, very disciplined, like never made any mistakes. So he's like the commander of the Pacific Fleet. He's a whatever star admiral and all this, but they stayed really close. And so Iceman has always, in a sense, anytime Maverick got in trouble, Iceman would just come in and say like, no, he's going back. He's doing this. And in the movie, he assigns him to teach like this impossible mission that only a guy like Maverick could fly to the best Top Gun fighter pilots to save the world, pretty much. And it was
Russia, or what country's the bad guys?
It's unnamed. It would be hard pressed to find any more descriptive nature towards Russia, but that's just my opinion on it.
They don't even say what country the bad guys are from.
Nope, just the enemy.
Wow.
That's
Their leader
funny.
is Schmadishmir Schmooten. We just made it up. I don't know. It could be anybody.
That's funny.
Okay, I'm wrapping this up. So, and then Maverick is like doubting himself because it's such a hard mission, and that like he cares for the young pilots. He doesn't want to get them killed, all that stuff. And he goes and he meets with Iceman, and Iceman tells him like, hey, I haven't been getting you out of trouble all these years, like just because we're friends, but because I think the Navy needs Maverick. And I think these pilots need Maverick here. So I was like, that is interesting. If you like broaden that whole principle of like Maverick and Iceman actually being an important combo for an organization of like someone that is like kind of hyper disciplined, very few mistakes, like very, very ordered life, but also very good at what they do. Where someone like a Maverick, who is clearly like a pretty extreme risk taker, much more of like less of a team player, all this stuff. But I think the argument that is provoked there is that like, hey, the two of them together have actually like done a really important service to this organization, and they make each other better there. So that's my little reflection. It's not that deep, but we went there.
Reminds me of I think Jordan Peterson talks about this as opposed to conservatives and liberals. He calls them guardians and prophets or something like that. Have you seen about that, Mike?
Mm-mm.
Where he talks about there's like two kind of personality tendencies when it comes to structure versus change. And whether or not because conservative and liberal has become so synonymous with certain political platforms or political parties and certain leaders and stuff, that it's hard to, whatever camp you're in, it's hard to see any good in the other, and vice versa. But I think you're just changing that language is helpful to seeing like what if you're totally fixated or you're like kind of the conservative. I heard Roger Scruton say once, their conservative position is that it's harder to build things than destroy them, which I tend to find just a priori convincing. It's like it's hard to build things. It's hard to build a culture and a consensus, a church, a building, anything. To start from nothing to get to something takes a lot of intention and vision and cooperation and hard work. Whereas criticizing it from the outside and saying, oh, this is all bad, let's just get rid of it, we'd be better if it didn't exist. That sort of revolution is not very hard. And it's pretty easy to convince people that they're better than it and such. So that's the more conservative position, but it's more of like the guardian position. Like it's hard to build things. So let's, if we have something that works, even if it's not perfect, like let's try to work with it. Whereas the prophet position is more the Maverick, which is rules be damned. Like we just need to get this thing done. There are Schmadimir Schmootens out there, and we need to steal a F-14 and just fight them. And there's Iceman, who's the guardian, saying like, okay, but if everybody stole F-14s, then Schmooten would definitely get his way. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Peterson will go through the big 5 personality traits, and I know 2 of them, and I think maybe these are the 2 that are at play: is orderliness and creativity. And I think obviously the Iceman guy, the orderliness provides a type of stability that allows for like that long term. What we have exists. It took a long time to actually build this and a lot of work, and so we're gonna work within the parameters of this. But then the creative types push the limits of that stuff, and so I don't know. It's kind of cool to hear about the movie because Iceman is not just like a symbol for the orderliness. He actually is in charge of keeping order within the Navy. And Maverick isn't just a symbol for the creativity. He's like actually being taught or being instructed to teach guys about the limit case mission.
Mm-hmm.
Like try to push your skills and the rules as far as you possibly can to try and get the most out of your equipment, out of your mission, and whatever, all that different stuff. But
Out of
you
your
need
60-year-old body.
yeah. I think they retired the F-14. It was sometime in 2000, but like I don't know. I don't even know if those. Well, I'm sure they would still work, but that's so perfect. But it does make me think of um, in a family. Like that was one thing that I don't think I realized when I was growing up that was provided for me. That I guess being here with the soldiers, like there's a lot of folks that come from very very different backgrounds, and many of them are creative type that they like to push the limits. That's why they join the army, and that's why they jump out of airplanes and all that different stuff. But what the army provides is for like a stability to them, and that's what I had in my family. Was that there was a stability, there's an order that was present there, which allowed me as a kid to have the freedom to play in this in this creative way because I didn't have to worry about the order of stuff because that was just automatically provided for me. So I kind of took that for granted, but it allowed for the development of the imagination of, I guess that like creativity piece that was present there.
I remember I went to
You
El
need
Salvador,
both.
to the orphanage in El Salvador, where seminarians would go every once in a while to learn Spanish, and you go down this dirt road. I mean, it's pretty shocking, culture shock. I'd never been to a country like that was so poor, and driving out of the airport, the main city, out into the countryside where this thing is, like we have to go by this garbage dump, gigantic garbage dump, and this beautiful mountainous landscape, and then there's just like human waste, garbage, as high as one of these mountains, and there's tons of people living there, like living off of the garbage, and then you drive down this dirt road off of the main mountain highway, past all these kind of ramshackle huts with outhouses and corrugated roofs. And there was a guy, actually, we drove in at night, and this guy in a van is driving me out there, and I see a body face down in the ditch, literally. And he goes, "Oh, borracho," like, "Oh, that's a drunk." I had never seen a drunk literally face down in a ditch before, and just the poverty and the kind of indignity of everything was very striking. And then we pull up to this huge walled, painted place on this dirt road that just looks beautiful and nicely kept and landscaped. And there's a guard at the front. They called him the vigilante, with a short shotgun and like kind of a police uniform, standing there, who let us in. And then you go in, and there's this paved road and these like nice buildings. I mean, nothing was first class. It was still, fit with the scenery and everything. It was concrete buildings and stuff like that. But anyway, nicely put together, nicely kept, clean, landscaped, and barbed wire fences all around it. It was a number of acres. I mean, I would guess it was probably 500 acres or something. It was got fields and soccer, and it grew their own cucumbers and corn and all this stuff. And it was like this safe haven in the middle of this chaos. And I remember thinking the vigilante was like a little weird at first. It kind of struck me wrong. It felt like a prison, like he was keeping the kids in. And what somebody told me later is that's to make sure the kids know that nobody can get in here that's going to hurt them. That Father Wasson, who founded NPH, his thing was like, kids cannot learn, they can't grow, they can't mature unless they know they're safe. So security is like the fundamental need. before any of the other ones. You know, before you can grow as a person and your relationships and be a brother or a sister to other people, you're just this alone person that's always scared if you don't have that fence, that safety, that like, I'm not going to get taken, neither are these my brothers and sisters, nobody's getting taken away from here or hurt. So yeah, I think that's also my tendency towards guardianism, is that uncertainty or that chaos. It's so easy to let that seep in, and it makes it hard to be free. Like, I think creativity, obviously you can get over structured and over scrupulous, and nothing is allowed to change, but within the framework of like, here is just the givens, we don't change this is always the same, like that security allows you to be more free, I think, and creative.
Because I think we all people probably naturally tend towards one or the other, and there's a time for both, and a time for one or the other. But I guess what I'm thinking about, and maybe I'll just ask it, put it in question form. Have y'all felt any shift from like a natural tendency from one or the other towards maybe like how the other personality type or the other tendency would feel? And I ask that because like, I do feel an invitation to be more of a stabilizer instead of a player, as a father.
That's interesting. I can say, what are the two from Peterson? Guardian and Prophet. Is that right? So Guardian, Iceman, Prophet, Maverick. I think you guys can affirm this or challenge it, but I think my personality would tend like pretty drastically towards Guardian, like in that. And it is interesting because I feel the invitation sometimes, to be a little bit less structured or like take more risks, and I kind of need to be pushed that way versus the other. But even this discussion, like, there is something encouraging of that whole notion of, like, even, there's something even to like that, the structure around that orphanage of like, hey, if we can provide like safety and security, that's actually like a foundation then to build on. So there's something encouraging in me, even hearing stories like this of, like, you can, I don't know, there's just like freedom in both. That's maybe what that's vague of what I'm trying to get at. But just the notion, back to the Top Gun, just because I can't think of another example. But like, there was a freedom, like, or a maturing in the Iceman character to realize like, hey, no, under my like direction, like, this is my decision here. Like, I'm putting a Maverick with these guys because it's the best chance of getting it done and bringing them home. And so like, I can actually provide that structure. And he does, like, even in the movie, he comes in and he just like overrules like other admirals and says like, nope, this is happening. So there's like an encouragement of it in an ordered way. Anyway, that's vague to your question, but you just said that, and I don't know, that's what I came up with.
I might say the other way around, but in a different like sense. I think that, yeah, as I've grown up, I've become even more cognizant of my responsibility to build structure, or to build reliability and dependability in which other people can play. Like, as the chaplain here, you got to make sure the things work and things are safe, so that the people, like students, the missionaries, the staff, can like do their jobs and do them well in a creative way. But I also feel I've been more free to be creative and do creative things and take risks and push things a little bit, because I feel more confident in that structure. So I guess I see how both play off each other. Like now that I know how things work and
Mm-hmm.
how to
Yeah.
manage the archdiocese and keep things stable, relative to what we're doing here, instead of like just always worrying, like, am I doing it right? What's the structure here? I feel more free to play with it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I also feel, and this is maybe a separate category, but whereas I think in the past I might have fallen more for the idea that all we really need is more structure and everything would be great in the church. The problem is this doctrinal or liturgical or whatever chaos. And the old way was better and the new way is bad. So if we just go back to the old way, or if the guardians had just done a better job of guarding the old way, we'd be in a better spot. And I think I'm seeing more and more the limits of that ideology to really respond to reality, and it becomes its own sort of like prophecy, because it becomes more and more edgy and more outside of the mainstream. And so you're kind of like pushing the vanguard, and like there is a certain structure to the church that is paramount to before, like, whatever language you're saying at mass or whatever clothes we wear or whatever. The fundamental assumptions, the structure that's actually essential is this or that, like the church hierarchy, or the nature of the church as it was founded by Jesus to be a guarantor of doctrinal integrity, etc., liturgical practice. So I guess I see more the excesses of the guardian mentality than I did maybe 15 years ago. That makes me a little bit more skeptical of it.
Yeah. Well,
How would you answer it?
I mean, I've definitely felt I did not expect, like, this is actually making me think a lot. I feel, I know that I'm very playful by nature, and that I don't naturally provide structure for myself. And so that orderliness is something that I need. And that's always been, man, maybe that's why I've been around all these really ordered institutions, because they've given me a context that is clearly defined rules and clearly defined organization and structure. And then once you learn that, you can just like, whoa, let's just go in there, I don't have to worry about creating that. But I think as a priest, you don't have to recreate the wheel or anything, but you have to be a part of that edifice. You have to quit playing. You have to quit only playing in it and actually start to be a part of it, and be a part of the stronghold in a flexible Christ-like way, as a part of his body. And I think that's the call for, like, that's what parents provide for their kids, which is why when you see a parent that is acting like a kid, you're like, and we use the phrase, they haven't grown up. It means like you're playing, and your play is going to create you instability, which is going to affect your kids, because they're not going to have the stability to actually play like kids are supposed to. And I guess I feel that, yeah.
Well, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but even I think I have an example that may illustrate that as a priest in one particular way. But I thought of, this was like 6 months ago. It was one of, I want to leave it very vague, just to honor all the people involved and everything. But one of, I mean, if not the hardest, certainly one of the 2 or 3 hardest funerals that I've had as a priest. And it was awful. Like, I was honored to be with the family. It was just such a hard circumstance, and it was a really tough, like, week in it. And when I met with one particular member of the family, like it just didn't go well. Like, and honestly, and this is no judgment on them. Like I wasn't upset, but they were just like so mean, like in the meeting, because they wanted like all of this, in a sense, kind of like random stuff at the funeral. Like they just kind of come up with ideas when they came in. And I was just like, no, I'm sorry. Like, the funeral, like we need to have kind of like this layout in it with like a reading and everything like that. And anyway, just kind of like sat with them. And I remember like, oh, it's miserable after, because I felt so bad. And then, but then like, we just kind of like stayed with them like throughout the next week and like the next couple weeks. And the same family member came in like a month later, and they were just like a different person totally, and were like thanking me up and down. And it was very clear, like I don't think they even had a recollection like of that particular meeting. And I just remember, even at the time, like that was I don't really have words on it past that yet, but there was something of like, no, like I'm gonna like provide a structure here, and like, hey, there's some things that we just like we're not going to do at a funeral. Again, I'm not putting any details in there, just to like honor the person, but it was like a clear, no, we can't do that, in any circumstance in a church type thing. And but it was like actually like kind of sitting there and being a part of that structure was kind of miserable, honestly, at least in the moment. And then, but then like even just a month later, and not to say like, I mean, they got a lot of, it's just continuing to walk with them, but just the fact that you could see like in them, like gratitude. I was like, oh my gosh. And then even in me, like allowing them and like talking through like how they could get together and like be together. It's like I wasn't providing them anything. It was just like suggestions and everything, but it was very powerful. I don't know. That was a illustration that came to mind, if that makes sense.
It's good. I got to get going, guys.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome,
Cool.
dude. Thanks for sharing that.
Yep.
All right. We'll see you next time, guys. Bye.